How do you think about the tax cut? And we were having this debate in the 6 o'clock hour. The tax cut, what it's done, either whether there was a report earlier this week that showed that revenues did increase. I would argue they didn't increase as much as they would have otherwise. I know that doesn't seem to hold water with you, but that's for Joe, not you.
Well, you're amazed that if you cut corporate taxes, the corporate revenues go down. You cut the taxes on the corporations.
Hold on.
To be able to
corporate tax revenues
went down.
would have been higher this year.
Yes.
But for the lower taxes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why you cut taxes.
So they did not pay for themselves.
Well, no.
This idea they paid for themselves is completely crazy.
They paid for themselves on the individual side because we actually have higher tax revenue. If we cut
overall tax revenue would have been higher,
right?
But for
I understand
all
that.
Of the
I
tax
understand
revenue,
that, but
so you don't.
But the whole point of cutting it,
the idea that tax revenue is up this year is completely irrelevant. It would have been up anyway. The point is it would have actually been even higher otherwise.
We wanted to cut corporate. We wanted to cut. Yeah, go ahead.
Carry this conversation on in lower, fewer decibels.
So my question for you, though, my question for Mr. Greenspan is, when you think about this overall problem in terms of entitlements and revenues, what's the ultimate answer? Do you think that where we are in taxes makes sense to you, and the only thing we now need to do is reduce everything else?
The problem basically is that the actual corporate tax cuts were very helpful. They replicated what went on in other countries, and it's good. However, they're not funded.
Yeah.
You cannot create a large gap in the budget deficit without significant negative consequences eventually. So while it's true that the tax cut per se is good, it's only half the story.
How do you do that? I mean, they should have raised taxes on individuals at the same times, or they should be cutting spending.
I'm basically saying I'm not going to suggest where the revenue side gets changed. I'm merely saying that in answer to Andrew's questions, he's saying, is it good? In and of itself, it's the right policy, but it's only half a policy.
Yeah, but maybe you raise rates on individuals. Maybe I don't know how you do, but you want to unleash
I'm not about to suggest fiscal policy. I have enough problems.
But spending and non-discretionary spending is where cuts need to come, don't they? Not discretionary.
Sweden has gone through the same thing we have. They made a major switch where the entitlement problems have now been resolved.
But through accounting?
Well, one of the things they're doing is raising retirement age and linking retirement age to the average life expectancy of people. I mean, that's what you have to do.
That's anti-populist.
It's anti-populist, but unless you do that, you're just going to have more and more money being sucked into
should Medicare be means tested as well?
I'm not going to recommend what you should do in your country, but you've got to bring these things into balance.
You're a big admirer of our country. You can help us.
Here's what the real problem is. Back on page 299 or something in this year's report by the trustees of the Old Age and Survivors Benefit Program, Social Security, says that if we wanted to have an actuarially sound Social Security system, we have to cut benefits by 25% indefinitely in the future. I suggest to you it's on page 299, because that's the actuary speaking, not the politicians who signed the report. But it's still there, and that's what the facts are. And the reason is the way Sweden got out of it is that they go from a defined benefit system, which is what we have today, to a defined contribution, a 401k sort of thing. 401ks automatically create their own revenues, and they are never in deficit. And that's where the major gap problem is. So yes, they will slow down, and they will slow down for exactly the same reasons that Sweden solved the problem.